Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world. Welcome to Web3 Warriors, episode 51. I'm David Karoma, go by Chrome in the metaverse. I'm your host, and today we're going to be looking at the different blockchains that support NFTs and why it's a good idea to be blockchain agnostic, as we like to call it in the NFT community over on Clubhouse. Shout out to Low Sleazy and Blockchain Gospel. So we did have a guest lined up for this weekend, but unfortunately schedules didn't quite work out. So instead, we're going to take a look at a question that I've been getting from a few people that I've been onboarding into the NFT space, and also a few listeners. And thank you to all of our listeners, but specifically around, how do the different blockchains kind of work? What are the advantages and disadvantages of maybe minting on certain blockchains over others? For the sake of this conversation, I'm thinking we're going to look at like the 4 blockchains that I've collected NFTs on, or specifically that we've collected NFTs on for the Web3 Warriors project. We've been steadily collecting NFTs from the different corners of the metaverse, and really trying to support artists all over the world, as it's a global outreach initiative. So those 4 blockchains primarily, of course, are Ethereum, Polygon, and then Solana and Tezos are kind of the 4 main ones that we're going to look at today. And I'm also going to just briefly touch on a couple others. A big one that's trendy right now is the Bitcoin digital assets that are going pretty crazy right now with the ordinals, where they use a kind of inscription technique that I am not 100% on myself, so I won't be discussing that one too much. But without further ado, maybe we'll jump into the metaverse and show a little bit of our Web3 Warriors collection. As always, if there are any listeners in the live chat who have a question or maybe aren't clear on something that I'm mentioning as I'm going through these different blockchain options and different NFT options, feel free to chime in. We always have a NFT giveaway for thought-provoking questions from the chat as well. So definitely, if anybody joining us in the live chat has a question while I'm going through this, feel free to ask it. I have been fighting a little bit of a cough, so we'll probably keep this somewhat brief today. But I wanted to make sure that, trying to stay consistent. Episode 51 is a nice little milestone, getting over the hurdle. And I did want to address this issue that I've been getting questions about, which are like the different NFT markets and the different blockchains that support NFTs. So we'll start with, of course, Ethereum, looking at our collection on the Ethereum blockchain with Web3 Warriors. You're going to find a lot of art, of course, a lot of kind of highbrow art, maybe you could say. High dollar trades are a little bit more common on Ethereum as well. Obviously, the ecosystem is arguably the most active, although Solana's been trying to catch up, and Polygon actually has the higher volume compared to Ethereum. So Ethereum is where a lot of people kind of heard about the big explosion in NFTs when Beeple sold his works for however many hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Ethereum at the time that he got for that. But really, it's the technology, the immutable asset on the blockchain is not that different, on Polygon, on Tezos, on Solana compared to on Ethereum. They're all using kind of smart contracts. They're all basically allowing for the trading of digital assets in a way that is, peer-to-peer, that's very transparent, very accountable, and definitely claiming to be immutable, which is that it will last forever, which has all kinds of amazing implications when you're looking at the provenance and the ability to trace back, artworks to their original inception and their creators. So when it comes to Ethereum, obviously it is kind of the most popular. Another point that I always like to mention with Ethereum is that it has the most interesting kind of active metaverse spaces. Some might say it has the only metaverse spaces, although I've heard, Solana's working on some, and Tezos apparently has one that I haven't been able to visit myself. But yeah, so it has a lot of awesome metaverse spaces that are actually built on the blockchain. So when you're looking at voxels, for example, we have our art space here, which you can find at web3warriors.io. You can sign the guest book and get some free wearables as well if you're interested. But this is in voxels, right? So this is actually, well, this one is not on the blockchain. It's actually just a a room on the website that's not owned on the blockchain yet. It's one of the free rooms that they offer, but you can purchase entire lots that are actually built on the blockchain that you will have forever. And then within those lots, you can obviously build like what you see here, what you see on the screen, which is basically a nice art space, a nice room where you can walk around, show off your NFTs. You can also have live streams going in through there. So you could have video game tournaments. You could do all kinds of fun web-based activities basically right in your lot in the metaverse. And what's cool about that is, of course, you can trade the lot, and there's a whole basically real estate market tied in to these metaverse lots that are built on Ethereum. So that applies to Sandbox as well, Decentraland, Somnium Space. I believe Somnium Space actually started supporting Solana as well. I'd have to go double check on how the Solana side of that is going, but definitely Ethereum has the most kind of active and interesting metaverse spaces on that point. So that's another advantage kind of Ethereum as a ecosystem. Doesn't really necessarily impact their NFTs directly, but it's just another advantage of Ethereum. Now, obvious disadvantage of Ethereum is that there are kind of high gas fees, which especially when you're in peak traffic, the gas fees are measured in GWei. So on my web browser, I actually have the Ethereum gas extension, which I definitely recommend. Make sure it's the verified one on Google Chrome or on your Brave browser. But it does gives you the option to tag the gas on the top right corner of your browser, which is very handy if you're an active NFT collector, or even if you're minting NFTs. There's all kinds of reasons you might want to know what the gas fee is. If the GWei is over like 50 GWei, I would say that's relatively high, especially these days. And you can find it for under 25, under 20, sometimes if you're lucky under 10 even, then that's super cheap GWei. And so usually, if you're in 10 to 20 GWei range, I'm thinking in Canadian dollars, but generally I'm looking at around like a $3 per transaction kind of fee on like minting an NFT, for example, or sending an NFT. So that's the low end. On the high end, it can get upwards of $20, $30, $50, $100. Some people are paying thousands of dollars in gas when there's a really high volume and there's a lot of action on the blockchain, but they just really want that NFT. So yes, Ethereum does have fairly high gas fees. It's probably the biggest criticism of the blockchain, especially since it went proof of stake instead of being proof of work. When it was proof of work, there were certain corners like to criticize the environmental impacts of the proof of work blockchain because it actually requires a lot of energy to mine the blockchain. But now they've switched over to proof of stake. But the gas fees, some people thought it would bring the gas fees down or even eliminate them, which is definitely not the case. I think it's supposed to be standardizing the gas fees over time, but even that hasn't really quite happened. So the big asterisk on Ethereum and its scalability is definitely the gas fees. And part of the solution to that, to our next blockchain, is Polygon, which you could see as a layer 2 to Ethereum. So it's actually built on Ethereum, but its main pitch is that it solves the gas fee problem. And with that pitch, it has actually been fairly successful at getting a lot of big names behind it. A lot of big projects, even NFT projects, have lined up with it. DGods, which is one that was actually started on Solana, is now apparently jumping into Polygon because of its concerns, I guess, about the longevity of Solana. It's an interesting decision, but it's going to reduce the gas fees on the Ethereum side, because I think they were considering going to Ethereum, but they didn't want to introduce gas fees when jumping from Solana, which has very low gas fees as well. That's a questionable decision. But aside from that, there's also Starbucks, which has adopted Polygon. I think I heard Disney just signed on with Polygon as well. So the advantage with Polygon, obviously, because it has very low gas fees, is it does allow for very quick transfer of assets. So it's really good for gaming assets and for things like that. Trying to bring up our Web3 Warriors account here because it has a very good example of gaming assets. The project, the Unioverse project, is doing a really good job of taking advantage of Polygon assets and being able to basically airdrop Polygon assets to individuals, and then you can trade them and you can claim them and use them to redeem additional digital assets. So Polygon, another good advantage of it, if you're looking at kind of gamified tokens or a lot of exchangeability, being able to trade them without having to pay, expensive gas fees all the time. That's an advantage of Polygon. And now there are a lot of other layer 2 Ethereum-based blockchains that are also solving for that problem. Arbitrum is another one that is, I believe it's considered a roll-up, which is a little bit different. I'm not going to get too technical on this on this podcast, but there are other layer 2s that are trying to solve for the gas fee problem and also still keep the decentralization of Ethereum. So it's a very interesting moving space. The one downside that you see with the Polygon marketplace, unfortunately, is a lot of kind of weaker trading. You just don't have kind of the higher price points on the NFTs, and a lot of the trading in Polygon NFTs, for whatever reason, it's just your average Ethereum collector, for better or worse, seems to look down on the Polygon corner of the NFT space. So there's just kind of like not the demand for Polygon art, if you want to look at it that way. Like, yeah, generally, if you're making, high quality art and you want to sell it for a lot of money on the blockchain, specifically on the Ethereum blockchain, you're going to want to go with Ethereum and not try to sell it as a Polygon NFT, for better or worse, just from my anecdotal experience looking at the markets. So that's kind of a downside of the Polygon NFTs, but very good for gamification and a very kind of exciting opportunity when you look at like what Starbucks is trying to do, and you look at what some of these other corporations are trying to do, where they're basically going to create loyalty programs that actually hand out Polygon NFTs essentially. And so once those NFTs are in someone's wallet, they can point to it and say, hey, look, I've collected 20 Starbucks NFTs, therefore I can claim a free coffee, or whatever the case may be. But you could imagine a future where you could claim a free wearable that is kind of cool, and you could walk around in the metaverse wearing this wearable. Maybe it has a small Starbucks logo on it or something, but that seems to be the future they're working towards. They've talked about a metaverse where their Polygon NFTs are going to be used, and where their loyalty reward NFTs are going to be kind of recognized and able to be used within the metaverse. So it's a very cool opportunity and very interesting kind of innovative project. So Polygon, I'm mostly in favor of it. I like it. I think it has a good use case. I know there are some criticisms around its decentralization and lack thereof. It is kind of seems to be run by a kind of governing body that might be profit seeking or whatever the case may be. But we'll see how things pan out. But it's definitely impressive, and they've got a growing kind of slate of really serious projects that are being built on it. And again, if you're trying to look for a gasless option that is still within the Ethereum ecosystem, Polygon generally is kind of the way people are going. So that's Polygon NFTs, another good option, also supported on OpenSea. That was the other thing with Ethereum. Of course, you have so many different marketplaces, so that's another advantage with Ethereum. You have super rare, if you can get in. They have really high dollar NFTs on Ethereum. Obviously, Foundation, OpenSea supports Ethereum, as well as a bunch of other blockchains now. But also, there's a lot of different marketplaces for Ethereum. So that's another bonus for why Ethereum is the most popular, and kind of a good option for artists and creators out there who really want to do like limited edition art. All right, so now we're going to jump over to Tezos. Okay, so Tezos is a very cool blockchain that I think is a really great one for beginners, because Tezos itself is usually hovering around anywhere from $1 to $3. It did go up as high, I think, as $11. This is American last year, or maybe 2 years ago now, but generally it's not too expensive. So the actual token itself is relatively inexpensive. The art on the blockchain in general, at least as an entry point, is relatively inexpensive, but you can find some that are high dollar, still hundreds of dollars, if not thousands. But in general, for $5, for example, worth of Tezos, you can get, probably 2-3 pieces of artwork, depending what you're looking for. So it has a really low barrier of entry. It seems, for all intents and purposes, very decentralized from what I can tell. It's got a bit of a DeFi community, but I think that the real heart of the Tezos blockchain, frankly, is its Tezos art community and its NFT community, which has always been really impressive since the early days of kind of 2021 when NFTs were blowing up, and Tezos was right there in the conversation. And I've always enjoyed collecting art on Tezos. Yeah, definitely as a devoted marketplace. So you're going to want to go to object.com, which is not spelt the way object is supposed to be spelt. So that's objkt.com. And that's where you can find the Tezos marketplace. And it kind of pulls in pieces from Calamint, which is another site, Hicket Nunk, or now called Teia. Teia.art is another entire marketplace. That's TEIA.art. So you could check that out as well for Tezos art. And again, that's a low barrier of entry, very low gas fees, almost non-existent really, and just a really cool blockchain option for artists that are starting out and maybe don't want to have to spend, $30, $50 plus on gas fees to get their initial NFT set up. So again, maybe $10, $20 probably worth of Tezos, and then you're definitely good. So I would recommend that as a nice kind of onboarding option. As I mentioned, I don't think it has a metaverse, so that's a downside. It doesn't seem to be building out in the digital space quite as aggressively as Ethereum is, or even Polygon for that matter. But definitely the NFT market is really, really impressive. We've collected some really cool artwork from Tezos artists who went on to jump into Ethereum just in the last 3 to 6 months and have done really well for themselves, which is cool because it ends up impacting the price of their Tezos art as well. So that's really cool to see too. And again, this goes back to why it's a good thing to be blockchain agnostic. There's no downside really of looking at these other artistic communities that exist on other blockchains. I've looked at Binance, for example. That's one corner that I'm not interested in going to. So as you branch out and you're being blockchain agnostic, you might find that you don't like certain blockchain options for NFTs, and that's cool too. But you'll learn a lot, and the opportunity to actually find lucrative options as well, unexpectedly likely, is also a possibility there. So I've got airdrops on Solana, I've got airdrops on Ethereum that were kind of out of nowhere, and I wouldn't have got it unless I was open to it, so there's that option too. And I've got some cool Tezos airdrops from some artists as well. So the more you're out there, the more the community tends to reward you, just by osmosis. So it's really, really cool. So good to be blockchain agnostic. And the final blockchain I wanted to mention today on this episode is Solana, because I am a big fan personally of the mission of Solana as far as being very a faster option, a low gas fee option, but also good on the gaming side. They use the Rust language. It's supposed to have a little bit better compatibility with the Unreal Engine. And I know it has some pretty big vision towards a future where digital assets are being traded and moved around and used within gaming ecosystems at a large scale, which they say Ethereum can't really support due to its gas fee structure as well as its lack of speed, or just not quite as high speed as Solana. So they have a lot going for them, I think. But ignoring all that, because there's a lot of criticism, there's a lot of venture capitalist money that was in and then jumped out and tanked the whole price of the coin itself, and other criticisms around how centralized it is. However, the technology works. The blockchain is thriving, I think, from what I can tell. Definitely the NFT community seems to be thriving and growing. So I really like formfunction.xyz for this Solana market. They have some really, really cool limited edition artwork over here. And we have the opportunity to actually get NFTs for bidding on art, which I think is really cool. So we've collected, this one here is by Kago. So I actually got it just for bidding and trying to get one of his pieces. He airdropped this really nice limited edition artwork. So, I basically got it for free. So that's a really cool function that's available on formfunction.xyz. But more importantly, I just really like the vibe. It's got a nice aesthetic. It's really tailored to artists, you can tell. And just has a really, really cool kind of broad kind of different artistic different artist communities being represented. That's what I mean to say. So I got some cool photography on here as well. So formfunction.xyz, I'd recommend checking it out. Solana, I would say, is probably the biggest competitor to Ethereum when looking at really like high dollar and high volume NFT collections, especially the quote unquote PFP collections, which are like the profile picture type of collections, Bored Apes, Clone X, you know, all of those kind of popular ones that are out there. I mentioned DGods earlier, which is a Solana PFP project. I think it's the best selling ever on Solana. And again, they mentioned jumping over to Polygon, which is an interesting choice. So yeah, Solana does have a growing NFT market. Definitely seems to be the most competitive when it comes to those high volume NFT collections, those generative PFP collections, especially. So for those ones, you got to go to magiceden.io, and you'll find kind of that side of their market, of the Solana market, a lot of the PFPs, a lot of the high volume collections. So it's a really interesting competitor to Ethereum. Again, formfunction.xyz. Another downside still, lack of metaverse. I'm going to mention this on these blockchains because I do think the metaverse is just a no-brainer as far as creating the ecosystem, right? So any blockchain, and right now Ethereum seems to be the only one really doing it really well in an impressive way. But any blockchain that wants to be here to stay and wants to like really jump into Web3 from a creator standpoint, you know, this creator economy that's being built out in Web3 should be taking the metaverse extremely seriously. And I'm kind of disappointed right now because I'm 2 years into, you know, the Solana spiel, and I haven't seen an impressive metaverse yet with Solana. Again, maybe Somnium Space might be an exception to that. But yeah, I'd like to see more metaverse spaces coming out of the Solana ecosystem and really showing off, you know, a lot of the art and the capability of Solana, which is supposed to be faster, better support for high fidelity graphics. So we'll see where that goes. But I'm still hopeful that Solana will continue to evolve in that direction. So those are kind of the four main ones that we have active growing collections on Web3 Warriors. You can go to formfunction.xyz, look up Web3 Warriors, find our collection there. Same goes for object.com. Same goes for OpenSea. You'll find quite a few different Web3 Warriors accounts on OpenSea. Since we opened ours, I've seen like 5 or 6 different other accounts pop up, but we are the only Web3 Warriors.eth. So that is our account, and you can find our awesome collection that we're very proud of there. Continue to collect amazing art from the community and, you know, just be inspired. And we're going to be starting to trade a little bit more. We have our own limited edition NFT that we just dropped as well, which we're going to be creating some wearables currently being developed, which we're going to airdrop for free to the people who claimed our limited edition NFT. And then we're also going to try to sell some and see if we can use that as an angle for fundraising. Got a few awesome wearables creators that I'm reaching out to for that project. So stay tuned on that. So yeah, you know, I would definitely, out of those four, have to say I would still say Ethereum is my favorite, mainly because of the metaverse angle and what has already been created and what I know is going to be created into the future, into the metaverse, as well as, you know, they have tools like manifold.xyz, which is an amazing tool that gives you all kinds of versatility around your NFT, you know, how to set up a claim page where you can set up a limited edition where they can claim a certain number, or you can have it open and let an unlimited amount of people claim it. And you could close that window so it's a timed edition, so an unlimited amount of people could claim it for a week, but once that week's over, you know, it's closed. All these awesome versatile kind of options for your NFTs, which manifold.xyz has and only supports Ethereum right now, right? And I think that you find a lot more tools in the ecosystem of Ethereum, so that's another advantage beyond just the metaverse. So that's why I'm definitely partial to Ethereum. I've met amazing creators and artists within the Ethereum ecosystem, but also within the Tezos ecosystem for sure. And so, you know, that's what keeps us going, and that's what we're here for. It's all about the artists and all about the creators and really this new economy that's being built out in the metaverse. And on that point, we are actively in the market for a voxel spot that is actually on the blockchain that we actually own. So we're excited to be able to build that out. Shout out to Ingrid. Appreciate you hanging out. But yeah, so we're going to be building all kinds of different projects throughout this year. So we just wanted to kind of give an overview of these 4 different blockchains, why we're collecting art on them, how they differ, what kind of advantages and maybe disadvantages you could see in those. So a few others that I'll just briefly mention before we wrap up here. We're going to keep it brief, short 20, 30-minute episode, just really hitting on these important points about the different blockchains. But there is, like I mentioned at the top, this Bitcoin crypto art, which actually predates Ethereum NFTs, but is not the same really in function as an NFT. That is to say, using a smart contract and really, trustless and very kind of automatic, everything built into the code. There's still an element of kind of having to send money to somebody who then processes the transaction and sends you your digital asset basically, or crypto art. And I believe that's still the case with the new ordinals, which are all the craze right now. But personally, I just have a problem spending Bitcoin. Bitcoin is meant to be hold on for dear life, and wait for that $1 million mark. One day that's what it's going to be worth, right? So it is hard for me to spend Bitcoin. That's my biggest kind of gripe with the whole Bitcoin NFTs or Bitcoin crypto art space, but I love it though. And there's a lot of awesome artists out there, and they're all about the memes. They got some really impressive memes over on Bitcoin. The other one that's kind of slowly growing, but I haven't personally gotten into at all yet, is Cardano. Cardano has a growing marketplace for NFTs as well. But I can't really speak on that because I just haven't been there, haven't seen it. I like the vision of Cardano as a coin, trying to reach into disadvantaged markets and really, show them the power of blockchain to change their society. I think there's a lot of merit in that and what they've done in Kenya and Ethiopia. So I don't hate on Cardano, but as far as their NFTs go, I have not much to say about them. And then lastly, I actually wanted to mention Wax as well. So Wax is an interesting one that's really gone quiet in this bear market, and I know their coin price has been hurting a lot. But if you look at their main marketplace, which is atomichub.io, they have a lot of big brand names that are signed up with them. So they got Marvel, they got DC, Hasbro, Topps, Mattel, Atari, Nickelodeon. So they got a lot of really big names and a lot of active NFT collections that have already gone live under these brands. And it's very much a gaming kind of platform, you could say. They say they're the best gaming blockchain, for gamers. I'm not sure that's the case yet, but maybe one day. But I just wanted to mention Wax because it is a really cool one. I actually have a space that's Minecraft-based metaverse that's built on Wax, and it's been pretty fun to kind of go in there and be able to build in Minecraft, but actually own the space on the Wax blockchain. So just a quick mention there. That's another NFT blockchain option if you're into gaming and you want to look at some long-term possible investment. Wax might be worth looking at. Definitely not financial advice, but just something to say. So yeah, that's pretty much the breakdown of all the different blockchains that I'm familiar with personally and that we are collecting artwork on for the Web3 Warriors project. Hopefully that's added some value and given some education for those who are maybe not aware of the differences and what the opportunities are, and maybe even the different marketplaces that we mentioned, different websites for all of these different blockchains. So hopefully that's given a lot of value. And as I mentioned off the top, another important note for why it's good to be blockchain why it's good to be blockchain agnostic is that really there's opportunities that you don't expect that can come out. So recently, Solana had this their first meme coin, they called it, which was the Bonk coin, right? And I had been collecting random Solana NFTs kind of here and there over the last year and a half, and because I had collected on Magic Eden, I got millions of this Bonk coin that came out, right? And so I didn't expect much of it. I definitely sold most of it early on and made some money that I wouldn't have made otherwise. So that was pretty cool, and I wouldn't have got it if I wasn't open to the Solana blockchain, right? And then that coin actually ended up mooning even more, so I could have made more money on it. But point is, these are the kind of unexpected things that happen in blockchain, and it's really cool. Last year there was the ENS drop. Actually, I guess that was 2021 now, so almost 2 years ago. Just for claiming an ENS, which is the Ethereum name service token, which is anything.eth. So right now we have Web3 Warriors.eth. This would have been for Chrome World.eth, which was the first ENS claim that I ever made. they paid out, like, I think it was something, a minimum of $5,000 to $10,000 to every single person who claimed an ENS during that year, like during their kind of startup when they were just launching. So that was another unexpected gift that you get just for, you know, being active in the community, just for taking part in certain projects. Blur.io has a big airdrop that I believe is going live soon, if it hasn't already, which was specifically just rewarding people who had collected NFTs on Ethereum. So that's another example, you know, so that's another reason why it's really good to be blockchain agnostic. It's good to not think that, oh, just Ethereum is worth, you know, that's where all the value is. I don't care about anywhere else. You know, for the sake of learning about the technology and for the sake of potentially opening up other opportunities to, you know, make some money or just find some really cool art, it's definitely a good thing to be blockchain agnostic. So with that, I want to thank everyone who's tuned in. We're going to have this podcast live later today. Doesn't seem like we have any questions from the live chat, so we're probably going to wrap it up. I hope everyone has an amazing weekend. We will be live next week with Ingrid, who'll be talking about her amazing NFTs, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you, everybody. Till next time, we'll catch you in the metaverse. Peace out.